Good day, wherever you are, and welcome back to Below the Curve Gaming. Today we have Decapitation between the Kosmoflot and the shock army of Acontecimento. Now you'll see our board looks somewhat different to previous games, and that's because we have the forward base by Panoceania's workshop, which we bought from Toby, who I had previously bought the shock army from. It's a stunning piece of terrain, and we may well do a video on it in the future. We also have Laserforge Workshop's Blizzard tokens, which are really nice and a massive improvement on the circles of paper we've used in previous games. And we have little gun turrets from Defiance as well. The rules for Decapitation will be on your screen now, and it's quite a simple one. We are headhunting each other's lieutenants. So without further ado, I won the roll-off and I elected to choose deployment, so Ben will choose turn order. Ben is deploying first, he's deploying at this side, and I will be defending the Squiddly Diddly and the Happy Panda over here. So we'll be back in just a second with Ben's army and deployment.
Hello, it's Ben, and this is my Kosmoflot force for Decapitation. It's 299 points and 5 SWCs, and has 15 models or 15 profiles within 2 combat groups. So first combat group is on the left, and it is a core fire team of Ricots. So I've got the Volcalat, which counts as a Ricot. Now this one, although it's the HMG model, which is the only model at the moment, it's actually the missile launcher profile. I had to downgrade points-wise because I was kind of a wee bit over points, so I had to try and move some stuff around. It should be a good defensive piece though, and I felt I wanted to try the missile launcher out anyway, so I wasn't too dissatisfied with the need to move down. And then I've got 4 Ricots. Now, I've got 2 at the back, which is the light shotgun models, both a volunteer and a Ricot, and they're the chain rifle light shotgun 8-point profiles. Then I've got a forward observer with SMG, and the Kazakh doctor model is standing in for paramedic, with submachine gun and medkit. I then have the Polaris team, which is a controller, unfortunately not painted. Was the last model on my paint stand, waiting to get finished, but didn't have time yesterday, unfortunately. And then the Bear Pod itself. So this will be my first time trying it out, so I'm looking forward to it. Stunning model. And something that I think in Decapitation will hopefully be able to deal a lot of damage. I'm not quite sure. I did have a look over the profile for it, and the controller seems to be a separate entry or a separate order. So they generate 2 orders, and she doesn't have peripheral synchronized or peripheral controller. So she'll just be an order monkey most likely. 9 points with a light shotgun pistol. Not exactly going to be running up the board and taking the fight to the enemy. Now my lieutenant, which is open information in this battle, or this mission, is the Kosmoflot with the portable autocannon. Now this is a tank hunter model. I did buy it just to be a Kosmoflot, however I've subsequently bought a TAC force, so I'm kind of now looking at a way to try and combine the paint scheme to fit across the multiple ranges that I've got. So quite happy. She just got finished yesterday or the day before, so happy how she's turned out, and it'll be interesting. It'll be the first portable autocannon that I've got a chance to use. No wind incapacitation and an armour of 6, which I think on a lieutenant's quite a beastly profile. I'm hoping to keep her back as a defensive piece. She does have MSV level 1, which will hopefully help against any smoke that Martin might be dropping as well. Then my combat group 2, I have 7 orders in here. So I have a Harris. Originally, this wasn't quite the makeup I was hoping for it. I was hoping to get Caden First Strike Dawn in, but I just couldn't fit him in points-wise. So I've got my Unknown Ranger, which is the Spec Ops model with a 3D printed shield. Then I have Domeroy, I believe it is, as a Varangian guard. Just a chain rifle smoke grenade profile. Originally I was looking for the SMGs and chain Colts with +1 burst. However, yet again, I had to cut some points, and they both of the profiles, the Wolvers, also the same Varangian guard profile, both of them had to be dropped to just the cheapest one. So hoping they're going to be my attack piece, moving up the board and trying to take out the regulars. Martin's lieutenants are regular, so they'll be in a core fire team, I would imagine. So hopefully there'll be enough firepower between the three of them, with some versatility with the smoke, the MSV on the Unknown Ranger, and also the chain weapons that I'll be able to deal some damage to them. Then I have 2 camo markers, which will be Usha McNeil, which is a specialist operative profile, and then I have the forward observing SAS. I've got 2 forward observers in the force, slightly less than I would have liked, particularly because I have brought the Dozer and the Uralan Total Reaction remote. And I was hoping to have a few more forward observers to light stuff up to then be rocketed by the Uralan. But I, yet again, had to kind of get what I could in terms of the points. So I think I've got a good balance between defensive pieces and models that can move up the board and hopefully take out any lieutenants that I can see. And I've got a couple of midfield specialists in the Usha and the SAS. I do have at the back Uhahu and my 3D printed HVTs. They're going to be the HVTs for this game. And I've got my wee gun turret as well. So I'll come back at the end of my deployment in a wee second. So here we are at the end of the Kosmoflot deployment. So starting with the HVTs, I've got Uhahu over here. And then moving around, I've got the 3D printed HVT there. I then have a camo marker, which is an SAS forward observer. Now I've gone for quite an aggressive deployment, I think. I've got the Uralan over here, which will hopefully have line of sight down this fire lane here, and potentially offer some protection for my HVT. And then behind it, I've got the Dozer in the doorway. Then I have the Harris, or Harry, not quite sure how to pronounce it, but anyway. The Harris team here, which is a Varangian at the front, the Unknown Ranger behind, and the second Varangian just here. Now the plan is to chuck some smoke and then move them up this side here to combine with the SAS and hopefully have a bit of a pincer maneuver there. Over here at the back I have the Polaris handler. I think Maras is maybe what. So I have the Cosmos Soldat with portable autocannon here, which is my lieutenant. Now she does have 2 fire lanes, one down the centre of the table and one slightly right of centre. Now there are 2 blizzard zones there, but in ARO she'll only be getting 1 burst anyway. We'll reduce her on the active turn to having just 1 burst out instead of 2, so I'll maybe have to pick my shots. But hopefully a big deterrent for Martin deploying stuff down that middle lane. And I have the start of my core fire team, which is a Volkolap with missile launcher. Behind him, the Rukot paramedic and a Rukot with chain rifle. Then over here, a wee bit in the open, but I've got first turn, so I'll be able to move them. I have the forward observer and the second chain rifle. Then you can see my wee gun turret. And then on front of the gun turret is the Polaris Bearpod. So I've kept one model back, which is Usha as a camo marker. So I've got the option for just infiltrating her on my side, or I can place her further up the table if I wish to take the role. So on to the shock army of Acontecimento.
So here we have the shock army. In Combat Group 1, we have a full fire team of Acontecimento regulars. Now, unfortunately, this army was worked out before we picked a mission, which is always a tad foolish, as you'll see in a minute. So we've got a hacker who's got the underslung grenade launcher, and she comes with the Fast Panda. Obviously, in this game, that's going to be utterly superfluous due to lack of hacking targets, really. We've got a regular with Spitfire. We've got the regular with the sensor and the triangulated fire option, who's also a mine layer. We've then got a paramedic, and we have my lieutenant. Unfortunately, the models are the same, but the bases are different. We've got an evil hacker. Now, this actually is of far more use because the other three models in the combat group are all Akali drop troopers. We've got Corporal Singh. We've got one with a Spitfire, and then we've got the hacker profile. Now, yet again, the hacker is going to be of distinctly less use, but still, it's another drop trooper. We've then got Group 2. We have the Total Reaction Combi Rifle Mule bot, and then we've got the Pathfinder drone bot, which has got remote presence, again, limited use, but it's also got triangulated fire, and it's a forward observer, and it's got a combi rifle, flash pulse, etc., etc. Now, due to this game not having any of the classified objectives, that's likely not to be as used, but I would say in any other game, this would be a good all-round list. We've got an engineer to hopefully keep my 3 drone bots going. Then we've got a Bagmari Harry team of Stephen Rao, an HMG, and a paramedic. So the trick with this is going to be that Corporal Singh has NCO, so he'll come in on his own order, and then he'll be able to use the NCO order to activate without draining my order pool. The fire teams will provide order economy, and we will try and hunt down Ben's HVTs and Lieutenant. The Cosmosoldat is armor 6. It's going to be quite a tough nut to crack, so it's also got a portable autocannon. We're going to have to be a wee bit careful. We're going to try and attempt an assassination run on it using the drop troops who will be brought in with the controlled jump so that they land on 14 or less instead of 11s. So we'll be back in a second with my deployment. So we've set up. Now, Ben has a camo marker, which is hidden around here. I'm pretty sure this is an SAS or some form of Zenit model, which will be a forward observer. And the reason I say that is because he's got the Ulan tractor mule, which if you can forward observe something, you can bring down very accurate strikes on it. And Ben tried that a lot in the last game without much success, but I'm fairly confident this is the case. So we'll start. I've got my HVT here. Now, because in this game they count as hostile targets, you need to actually factor the way they're facing, otherwise they can't react, and in that they give away victory points if they die. You don't want them facing the wrong direction and get plugged in the back of the head. So we've got our fire team here, and the fire team leader is the regular with the Spitfire. Beside that, we've got the evil hacker and the engineer, because it's important to keep the evil hacker up until my drop troops have landed. We've got the fire team Harry of the 3 Bagmari here. The HMG is the leader. Now, due to the blizzards, which obviously have the suppression zone, they're not going to be as particularly useful at long range, but they are covering fire lanes with an HMG, which in reactive phase will at least be scary. They've all got number 2, which I need to remember, because if one dies, the next one immediately takes over. We've got the Pathfinder here with the combi rifle and triangulated fire. And we are holding the final mule bot, the total reaction one, back. It's probably going to go just down here to cover the fire lane all the way down to the Ulan. And it'll also provide some cover against the fire team of the 4 Rakots and the Volkalat with the HMG. Need to be careful of the bear pod coming round, but I'm hoping the Bagmari can at least make him think twice with the HMG, even just pinging off individual shots. But they're probably going to make a run for my HVT. So we'll just have to see. So we'll be back in a second with the final deployed models and the first turn.
So at the end of the deployment phase, we placed our held back models. I passed a fizz roll on 19 to place a camo token in Martin's half of the board, just round from his HVT. And then Martin placed his total reaction bot just in the edge of his deployment zone beside the metro sign. So we'll come back at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 1. So here we are at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 1. It was quite an aggressive turn 1. Martin started by removing 2 orders from the group 1, taking me down to 6 orders with the use of a command token. I started in group 2 by moving the Varangian Harris up using the Wolver Varangian as my team leader, who attempted to throw smoke and drew an ARO from the Pathfinder, which managed to cause a wound on her, dropping her into Dogged. The regular sensor that was over here managed to also draw a bead on the Unknown Ranger, which knocked him into no wound incapacitation. I spent another order and moved them up, and this time I believe I dodged. I then spent a third order on them using the tactical awareness of the Unknown Ranger to make her the leader. I moved them forward in front of this camo token, and they then moved round this building, trading some shots. Now, the Unknown Ranger managed to drop the lieutenant and the sensor from the regular team unconscious and took a shot at the HVT that was around the corner. However, she passed her dodge. The Unknown Ranger unfortunately was killed in return. This left me with a broken Harris, a Varangian in Dogged condition, and then one that was unhurt at this point. So I spent an order on the Dogged Varangian, who ran round using Berserk to attack the HVT, who succeeded her armor save on the 20, and the Varangian died in return, which I was expecting because I was on Dogged already, but I'd hoped to take out the HVT. I then spent a further order, so at this point I'd spent 5 regulars and my tactical awareness order to move the second Varangian, also in Berserk, into contact with HVT, which also killed that Varangian, but this time it took out the HVT. I spent the lieutenant order in the Cosmosoldat, which, with the portable autocannon, managed to trade some shots with Martin's turret, which was here, and dropped it dead. I spent 4 order tokens on the core fire team, which traded fire with Martin's Pathfinder remote over here and his core fire team. Over the duration of the orders, I managed to drop the Pathfinder remote unconscious. I killed his sensor and dropped the regular paramedic unconscious as well. So Martin's fire team is currently the regular with Spitfire, and I believe just a regular at the back with combi rifle. I spent an order on the Polaris Bearpod, who climbed up on top of the building. Then I realised I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it, so it spent a further order to climb back down. So it hasn't done much so far. And the most telegraphed camo token over here spent first order to move up and trade shots with the HVT and also the remote that was behind this bus stop. I succeeded in killing the HVT, and on a second order, I succeeded in killing the remote. So at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 1, I currently have 4 victory points for killing both HVTs, as well as scoring 1 lieutenant kill. So it's looking quite good from the Kosmoflot's point of view, so we'll have to see what Martin can do in response.
So the Shock Army turn 1 started with the evil hacker using controlled jump successfully, which pretty much telegraphed what was coming next. The Bagmari HMG took command of the fire team, moved out to here and attempted an assassination run on the Kosmosoldat and hopefully the Volkolot, and was monstrously unsuccessful, chewing a missile launcher hit to the face, an autocannon pricked to the face, and that was the end of the Bagmari. With that being said, I took command of the fire team with Rao, thanks to number 2, and moved them inside this building. Now, the models are up here, we'll come back to them again later, but they are inside, they did move in through this door. First up, the Akali Commando dropped down, he landed behind the metro, and then he used an order to come round here and shot at the Kosmosoldat, taking her to no wound in cap, which wasn't too bad. The turret, thankfully, despite hitting, with the Akali being armour 2, I survived the shots, and the light shotgun didn't hit either. We landed another Akali in here. I was going to come round and attempt an assassination run, but I would have had to have moved to here to be able to draw a line of sight, and would have just been shot down, very unlikely to actually have killed the Kosmosoldat, and I would have been taken down by the 360 turret and the Bearpod handler. So instead I moved up and thought I'd be clever and take out the dozer, and instead got shot in the face with a pistol, failed my saves, I believe it was a crit, and that was the end of the Akali. So my attempt to conserve an order for next turn was a disaster. Kirpal Singh had attempted to land down. He was going to come down round about here and try some shenanigans. Unfortunately, he rolled a 20 for the fizz roll and ended up away over here instead. I did spend a lieutenant order on him, moving him up, and the camel token did nothing. He exchanged fire with the tractor mule and took it down to unconscious 2. However, with the dozer being conscious, he'll be able to move around behind it, with the tractor mule being bigger, probably blocking line of sight even as he comes down the stairs. So you might be able to repair it without me being able to stop him. The last orders were spent on the Bagmari, who moved up inside the building to shoot through the windows. Unfortunately, Ben succeeded in critting on his dodge rolls and managed to drop 1 Ricot. However, I was unable to take down the paramedic, which was my main target. So it's not been an at all successful turn. Both Ben's HVTs are very much alive. The Kosmosoldat is wounded but not dead, and I'm looking worryingly short on orders for subsequent turns. So we'll be back at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 2.
So here we are at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 2, and there was a lot of orders spent on a certain bear. So in the impetuous phase, Usha McNeil moved up. I then spent a second order from pool 2 to move her further up. She dodged against the machinist's combi rifle, and then spent a final move to move in contact with the Happy Panda. She's out of line of fire of anything at the moment, but hopefully a deterrent to this side of the table. I then spent an order from order pool 2 on the dozer, who moved up and succeeded in getting the Urlan back into the fight. Then in order pool 1, I spent all 7 of the orders on the Bearpod. So firstly, it moved up and attempted to chain rifle the Akali that was hidden behind the Squiddly Diddly bin. And the Akali succeeded its dodge and managed to hide behind the metro station. I also took some shots through the window and through the doorway from the Bagmari and Stephen Rao. Thankfully, they bounced harmlessly off my armour. I then moved up further, and what turned out to be a wee bit of a Benny Hill chase, I ran round the metro trying to shoot at the Akali, who managed to dodge, I think twice, And then eventually I got into contact with him using Berserk and hit him with a trench hammer. He didn't dodge that. I then spent another order to move back into this kind of area here and took a dodge, I believe, to move slightly further up. Then I moved and dropped smoke, which I managed to succeed in dropping the smoke and then moved up further. However, because of the MSV visors, Martin was able to shoot through the smoke at the bear pod, and I took a dodge as my reaction to it, but what I should have done was just pushed on with the move, because he succeeded in hitting, took a wound off me, and now I'm a wee bit in no man's land. Whereas I think if I'd just pushed on with my second movement, I could have then been in cover behind this advertisement. So that's all I've done in my second turn. So it's currently 4-0 to me in victory points due to the HVTs that I've taken out. So now on to the Shock Army, turn 2.
So turn 2 for the Shock Army, and Singh had started here. So I used the Lieutenant order first, moved him up and shot at the tractor mule. I moved him to about here. I hit the tractor mule twice. Unfortunately, Ben rolled really well and passed both saves. So I immediately took another action, moved up to around here. Ben revealed the SAS so he could shoot back, and I elected to use my light shotgun. The light shotgun managed to take down the SAS and kill the civilian target. However, on Ben's return fire, the tractor mule hit me twice and I failed both saves, so that was the end of Singh. The Bagmari team moved up and managed to drop the bear pod, which was pretty good going, in a single round of shooting. They then opened fire on the Kosmoflot. Unfortunately, Ben passed the dodge, and I rolled really poorly, so she's dodged around behind the wall. The final action saw the Bagmari here enter a firefight with both Usha and the Volkalat, and despite the fact that I critted Usha, in her t-shirt she passed 2 saves, and the Volkalat was able to dodge. The regulars who had started here moved through this building, and then the regular of the Spitfire came to the side, hosed at the Rakot fire team, managing to take down one of the Rakots, but the Volkalat has led a charmed existence and has dodged successfully everything I've thrown at him so far. So at the end of the turn, I've managed to gain some victory points for killing a civilian, but I've got an awful lot of work ahead of me to get all the way around here to hunt down a Hahu. So we're moving on to the Kosmoflot turn 3, so we'll just have to see how things go.
So here we are at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 3. So I started with Order Group 2, and the Uralan stayed where it was and fired at the regular, but nothing happened. So I spent an order, I moved up and fired again at the regular, this time dropping him unconscious. So I spent a third order to move up. I didn't quite have the range to gain cover, but fired at the Bagmari just behind the stairs, and nothing happened. So that was all 3 orders from Pool 2. I then moved to Pool 1 and spent an order on the fire team. This time I fired at the Bagmari and took a wound on the Volkalat, dropping him to no wound incapacitation. I decided at this point to break the fire team and spent a order on the paramedic, who shot successfully on a 2 the downed Rakot here with the medkit, and then on a 3 managed to fizz roll and brought her back into the fight. So quite chuffed. I think that's the first time it's ever worked for me with my Rakot paramedics. I then poured the rest of my orders, a further 3 orders, into the Volkalat, who moved up, dodging against shots from the Bagmari, moved further, and this time traded shots with the Bagmari and with Stephen Rao, who was in the building. They both shot him, and I managed to pass 3 saves on, I think, a 17, a 15, and an 18, and chain-colted both of them, dropping them unconscious. The regular who was behind Stephen Rao managed to survive. My final order was to move into closer in and fire both chain-colt bursts at the regular, who shot at him, missing the Volcalat, and then dropped dead from the chain-colt. I should mention that at the start of the turn, Usha used her impetuous order to move up. She tried to fire at the big Mari, who did have line of fire to her at the time. He has subsequently moved, but he took her unconscious, but I did take out the machinist that's hidden behind that stairs in reply. So at the end of the Kosmoflot turn 3, it's currently 4 victory points to 2 in my favour, and Martin's only got his single evil hacker, I believe, left, so it's going to be a very quick turn for the Shock Army.
So, unsurprisingly, the Shock Army didn't have a final turn on account of the evil hacker being unarmed. So, at the end of the game, Ben has obviously killed my lieutenant, and I haven't, so he has killed more lieutenants. He has also wiped out more of my army than I have of his, and he's killed both of my HVTs. So he gets 3 victory points for killing the lieutenant, 3 for killing more of my army than I killed of his, and 2 per HVT, giving him 10. I only got 2. I had hoped to be able to keep one of the 2 fire teams alive, maybe be able to move up and somehow get around here. But given the sheer amount of distance I would have had to have covered, I think that would have been a bit of a fool's dream. So we'll be back in a minute to discuss the armies, how they performed, etc. So we will see you then.
So quite a decisive victory for the Kosmoflot. So a couple of thoughts on the game. Firstly, I think the army I chose, I was really quite happy with how it worked. I had looked at the mission in advance because we'd worked out what we were going to be playing, and I really had in my head what I kind of wanted to build. I wanted a defensive fire team core, in this case the Volcalat and the Ricots, and I wanted an offensive Harris. And I think that I really kind of hit the nail on the head with the choices for them. The Harris obviously died very quickly, all getting wiped out in turn 1. But by that point, I had really, in some ways, done what I was aiming to do with them, which was to take out the HVT on that side and to reduce the strength of Martin's fire team core. So at that point, I think I only succeeded in dropping 2 of the core. However, it was the lieutenant, which then immediately scored me points on the board, as it were. And then obviously the sensor, which did mean that the camo token of the SAS was relatively unhindered at that side. And I think in taking out just 2 of the fire team members, it did weaken that fire team quite a bit by dropping certainly the BS of them down by the +3 to at that stage they wouldn't have got any bonus to the BS. So that was quite successful at that side. I wanted some midfield specialists, in this case Usha and the SAS. Now, although there wasn't the need for specialists in this mission, I wanted the kind of opportunity to move up the board quite quickly and to ideally take out both of his HVTs. Obviously, Usha succeeded that turn 1 as well, which then gave me that 4 points on the victory conditions from the get-go. I wanted to have quite a defensive piece as the lieutenant, which was quite tough to get rid of as well. And I think the Cosmo Soldat, expensive at 48 points and 1.5 SWCs, but the multi-spec visor and the portable autocannon I felt worked really well. The bear pod, I didn't get as much use out of it as I was hoping. However, the ability to certainly take out the Akali, which at that stage of the game was really the only thorn in my side that was potentially going to be dangerous towards the lieutenant. If I'd thought about it, I should have moved the lieutenant out of sight after turn 1 when things were looking quite beneficial in my favour. So bear pod, I did get to try out certainly the trench hammer. I got to drop down the chain rifle hits as well, which was quite nice. So I got to see some of the benefits of it and attempt to throw smoke at the Fizz 16 with the +3 as well. So that was certainly seeing some of the highlights of the potential of it. Other than that, the Uralan, again, didn't do a huge amount, but was maybe a bit of a deterrent. It did obviously manage to take out Kirpal Singh and the Spitfire regular, so it certainly got its points back, if that's a way to look at it. And I think with the potential for total reaction, it certainly proved to be a bit of a deterrent perhaps on that side of the board, but I think the majority of that side of the board had been neutralised by the Harris in turn 1. So happy with how the army performed. Did manage to try a few new profiles from my past games with Kosmoflot. So hopefully I'll get my Frontovix and the Scots Guard painted up for next time, so they might be something new to try out, some medium infantry in the Kosmoflot as well. So we'll come back with Martin's thoughts on the game.
So where did it all go wrong for the Shock Army then? So really where it all went wrong was that this list was generated about 4 or 5 days ago when I was walking into work at about 6:05 in the morning. It wasn't generated for this game in particular. And also, like all Infinity lists, they're generated without knowing what army you're facing. So it was a list that carried 3 hackers against an opponent who had 1, maybe 2 hackable models who never came close to me. That took up quite a few of my points, and also very valuable SWCs on a grenade launcher that was never getting used. And the drop trooper who comes with a combi rifle. What I would have been far better having would have been the drop trooper with the boarding shotgun, which I would have been far more willing to sacrifice to take down the Bearpod handler and the Cosmos Soldat, and would have been far more scary on the return fire as well. The deployment wasn't bad. The blizzard zones did very much hamper the army's effectiveness. I forgot to lay a mine with the boy with the sensor and the triangulated fire, but I don't think actually it would have done particularly much. The Unknown Ranger and the Varangians were gunned down as they came round the corner, and even though, yes, they did take out the HVT, there wasn't a lot I could do about that. The Evo hacker and the drop troops worked very well. I maybe, on hindsight, should have spread the drop troops across the 2 combat groups, but that would only have been an issue if any of them had actually survived, just to make sure I had orders from both fire teams to throw into them. The regular fire team, I forgot they were armor 0. Now, it didn't make that much difference, apart from the one crucial save, which was on the lieutenant. Bagmari, I keep forgetting are armor 2. Now, I liked the way we used the buildings. Being able to shoot through them was really cool. Being able to fire all the way out of one building, through another building, and onto the bear pod at the far side was a particularly cinematic moment, and one I really enjoyed. The table looked fantastic as well. I should have really looked though at investing in a Naga that I could have forward deployed, maybe the one with the monofilament mines, to have given me that mid-table presence that the Shock Army is meant to possess. I also really missed something like a Knight of Montesa, and I think, and I said this in the last game, that a Knight would have made a big difference. I think in this game, a Knight as opposed to one of the expensive drop troops, I could have taken the cheapest Knight, the one that just comes with a boarding shotgun, and maybe just sort of gone hunting with him in a way. with the armour 4, the mimetism and the 2 wounds, he's very, very difficult to stop, and as long as you don't plough him into a blizzard by accident, he could do a lot of work for the force. But really where the game went wrong was that Ben had a fantastic opening turn, and my attempt to assassinate with my HMG was an unmitigated disaster when he took me out with a single shot back from his rocket launcher. I couldn't really factor that in. I felt that the dice I was throwing out should have been enough to protect me, and Ben's return fire was just devastating. So all in all, the army actually didn't play badly. I got a bit unlucky, but Ben just simply played a bit better than me. And that really is the wrap up for today. So we're up to 300 subscribers now. Now, our next video is going to mention we're below that, but that's because it was actually shot about a week ago and we've not had a chance to edit it. So I'm incredibly grateful to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. These sort of 100 marks are milestones for the channel, and they mean so much to Ben and I. They inspire us to keep making additional content. They push the channel up so when you search it, you find it. All your comments are greatly appreciated. We've tried to make sure we iron out our glitches in the rules. But if you do notice any, please say. Thank you very much for watching Below the Curve Gaming, and we hope to see you soon. And until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming wherever you are.